Well, I can't find my regular camera from the move, so hopefully I'll find that. In the meantime, this will have to do. Today we are reading The Robe. I have a very old book of it by Lloyd C. Douglas, I believe his name is. Yeah, this one is very long. It's 700 pages, so you guys just kind of settle in. It's pretty layered and has a lot of stuff going on, so it might take a little while to recap. It starts off, there's really only two main characters that you ever really get to know or care about. There is Marcellus. Marcellus is the rich guy. He is a tribune in the Roman army thing. Um, this takes place in the time when Rome was at its peak. The emperor's Tiberius, we see him a lot, and then later on he dies, and Caligula takes his place. If any of those names mean anything to you, but yeah, there's a lot of name dropping in the book of historical figures from the Roman time period. So if you're any way interested in that, that's pretty cool. And so we have Marcellus. Marcellus is he's a very nice guy, I would say. Overall, I mean, he's kind of focused on kind of, silly things as tribunes probably would be at the time. But he's very good at his fighting and everything, even though he's rich. Like everybody expects him not to be able to do anything because, he's rich and so he just got it. He got his title from being rich. But he's really good at fighting and doing his job, and he's a pretty good leader. And so anyway, but he's very hot-headed, and that is about to get him into trouble, as we will talk about. After I introduce the other main character, which is Demetrius, who is Marcellus's slave. Demetrius was taken into slavery because his dad couldn't pay his debts or something, and so now he's like this educated, kind of cool guy. He also tends to get very hot-headed, except when he gets hot-headed, he like punches people and slaughters them into the ground, um, and just like kind of hot, but anyway, so yeah, it's hot because he at one point he does it when he's like trying to help a woman who's being like basically assaulted, and so it's like yes, murder him, Demetrius. So anyway, Demetrius is a good guy. He stands up for women a lot, and he's really devoted to his master Marcellus and their whole family. Um, Even though he acknowledges a lot how terrible it is, of course, the fact that he is enslaved. But he just has a lot of respect for them, and a lot of a feeling that he is worthwhile, even though he is a slave. And the family overall treats him pretty well, and so it's a pretty good situation overall, I guess. There's a lot of talk in the book about slavery and what that's like, and how bad it is, and how there's a lot of just mentions of like things that Demetrius can't do because he's a slave, like he can't sit and eat with his master or anything like that, and people are talking about how horrible that is, and Demetrius is like, yeah, it's pretty horrible. Like it's just a lot about the conventions of the time, I guess, and how people get used to that, and then other people see it who aren't used to that are like, that's terrible. And yeah, it's just kind of a lot of that of because what happens? This, as I said, this is going to be a very long, rambling thing. What happens is that Marcellus pisses off the one of the main people in the royal family, and so he gets sent away to this place in Palestine. It's called Manoah, I think, and that's basically the place where if you have pissed off anyone in the royal family, they send you there hoping that you'll die, because most people do die there from diseases or just like craziness that happens, murders, all this fun stuff that happens there. And so that's the hope. But Marcellus goes in there and kind of whips everybody in shape and is like, we're not going to be a joke legion anymore. We're going to be like an actual thing. And so he whips them all into shape. And then there's a big hoopla in Jerusalem. It's the Passover. And so this is where the story intersects with the story of Jesus, because the robe is Jesus' robe. If you don't know anything about the story of Jesus, what happens is, of course, he dies on the cross, and Marcellus is one of the people who put him to death. And that's not biblical, it's just a convention of the story. And it also turns out this is biblical, that one of the soldiers got Jesus's robe, and in this story, that person who got Jesus's robe was Marcellus. And so what happens is that Marcellus is kind of freaked out by the whole crucifying thing. Also, they've kind of gotten to know a little bit about Jesus while they were there, and Demetrius thinks that putting him to death was a terrible idea. They think that possibly he could have been a holy person, somebody who, at the very least, a good person and not deserving of death. And so Marcellus starts to kind of think this too, and so it kind of gets in his mind. But also, what happens is, during a feast sort of thing, people are like, "Yeah, put on the robe, first kill, blah blah blah," like guy thing, and so Marcellus does, and he goes crazy. Um, he just kind of starts having these flashbacks back to the moment that he crucified Christ, and like just has these freak out spaz attacks. And so um, Demetrius takes care of him, takes him back to Rome, and it doesn't because uh, I've totally forgotten about the stupid love story. Oh, there's so much to talk about. So there's Diana. Diana is the granddaughter of the emperor, I think, and she uses her influence to get Marcellus out of Manoa and back to Rome because she's in love with Marcellus in this uh, really rushed love story that is not good. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, so Diana's in love with Marcellus and she gets him back, and then Marcellus, of course, is crazy. So his dad says, "Hey, Demetrius, take him to Athens," and so he does. Demetrius has the robe the whole time because he gets when he touches it, he gets like a warm feeling of it's kind of a spiritual experience for him, and so he keeps it. Then they go to Athens and they do, Marcellus is trying to get better. This is a really short part of the book where he's crazy. And then he touches the robe again, he's better. And then the whole rest of the story is um, through a lot of convoluted means. There's a lot of Deus Ex Machina in this book trying to, get people into the places that they need to be. It's not exactly the most fluid sort of thing. So anyway, through the conventions of book and storytelling, the Marcellus gets to go back to Palestine and to the Jewish area to learn more about Jesus for the emperor who is asking about this holy man, possible holy man. And so he gets to go to Jerusalem, slash Judea, all the area, to find out more about Jesus. And that's a good portion of the book is them learning about Jesus, learning who he is. Demetrius is with him and not with him, um, and at times, depending, because as I said, Demetrius punched the face out of somebody, and so he's on the run a little bit because slaves are gonna get killed for punching people, and and so there's a lot going on. There's a lot that happens in these 700 pages. I'm trying to decide where to start. So I like the book. The book is pretty good. The characterizations of Demetrius and Marcellus, especially Demetrius. Demetrius is an extremely well-rounded character. You really understand his motivations. He is my absolute favorite person in the book. Uh, Probably a favorite character of all time. Really good guy, but yet has his flaws. Solid character. Marcellus could benefit some more. I watched the movie of The Robe after this, and they did some things with his character that helped a lot of the storytelling. For instance, kind of making him a little bit more of an asshole jerk in the beginning, before he learns more about Jesus, really helps kind of contrast all of this because, spoiler warning, Marcellus becomes Christian. And so we have, because there's not that much bad stuff he's doing in the beginning that they talk about a lot. The second half really suffers, especially after he becomes Christian, because really he just becomes a pious kind of jerk, like very prideful after he becomes a Christian. Like, yes, I have this answer that I'm going to go and like spread. And then he like talks to people. It's like, you want to be my friend because I have the answer to life. And it's like, nobody likes that person. There's like this whole chapter where that's what happens, and he goes to these people and he's like, I have the answer. And they're like, ooh. And they're like, oh, tell us more. You are now our favorite person. And I'm like, no, that doesn't happen. People don't like it when you tell them that you're smarter than them. This is just normal human things. But that's also a little bit of a trope of just like storytelling in general, is that if somebody tells you the truth, is like, here, you're this type of person, and that person is like, wow, I really appreciate how you told me, straight, you weren't just a yes man to me. Like, that's a convention of storytelling that people like that, but in real life people don't like it when you say what they are and tell them the truth most of the time. Anyway, that was a side rant. I feel like I'm going on a lot of those right now. So anyway, so the book is good in parts, in most parts, I would say. I really appreciated, as a Christian, getting to see the development of the early church, and how that had issues involved with it, and kind of just getting that more human side of it. The Bible is great and wonderful, and I love it. It's my favorite book, of course, but it doesn't necessarily. But a lot of times it can come across as a fable. Like, you don't really see those people as actual human people. And this book helps to remedy that a little bit. And I liked that a lot, getting to see those like people like Peter who are in the Bible, just hanging out, doing random stuff. That was good. And the thing about the whole book, also something that I didn't like, is the characterization of women a little bit. Um, as I said, there's this romance between Marcellus and Diana. That is really, Diana is beautiful. That is her only character trait. She is gorgeous, and every man just loves her. Even her grandfather thinks she's really hot and like follows her around. It's kind of gross. Um, and so that just got on my nerves. And then he goes back to her and is like kissing her passionately, like, I love you so much. And I'm like, what about her do you love? And you're like, we're supposed to be pulling for this romance. For a little while, I thought maybe they weren't going to get together. Spoiler warning, they do. And it's like, why am I rooting for this? Diana's only character trait is that she is beautiful. And she has many other flaws of being headstrong and kind of prideful and very stuck up. Like, I just don't get it. And then the other women, and there are very few of them, the other women are kind of just there to be, moral compasses and just listen to the men and be like, oh, yes, yes, that's so sad, dear man. I will listen to you and hear all of your woes like the good little girl I am, which is, I mean, I guess that was really all that conversation between men and women probably was back in the Roman era. Not especially a free time for women. But I don't know. It's just kind of meh. And it's not a good thing. And it kind of is just like, ugh. But I don't know. I don't guess the book suffers that much from it. It's just something that bothered me, kind of old-fashioned uh, tendencies like that. What else do I need to talk about? So I like the book overall. It was pretty good. It needed a little bit more characterization, especially of women. It had some its flaws. Um, a lot of stuff, for instance, is repeated over and over again, like the same stories. And instead of saying, "Oh, then he talked about this story that we heard, 5 pages ago," it goes into the same story again. It's like, I didn't need to hear that again. So it has some flaws. It's not the best written thing, but I really enjoyed it, and it's just it gives a different perspective to something that I personally believe. And yeah, I like it for that reason. So that's the Robe, a very long, very confusing at times, but pretty good book. The next book that I'll be reading, it's way over there. I'm not gonna get up to get it. The next book is Roller Skates, which is a cute little kids book. I'm almost done with it, so I'll get that video up soon, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.